Hi everyone and welcome to another week of Polyglots of the Week. It is Monday evening and my name is Ed, or Eddie, if you did not know. First I just want to apologize that this week's video is in English. Obviously last week was in English because of the theme. Technically I should be going back to German videos right now, but I came back home this past weekend and as you can see sort of in my video every day in September videos, or the lack thereof this weekend, my life has just been a mess, and I didn't even have time to make this video today. Next week, I think I'll be in a better state and I'll be able to plan and record something in German and everything. So I'm sorry. This week's theme is somewhat general. It's Mariah wanted to talk about like pronunciation, kind of things along the lines of like our problems with pronunciation, or what like are there sounds that we particularly find difficult, or anything that sort of we struggle with pronunciation. I think that there are some things in pronunciation that are obviously just quite difficult when they're new sounds that you're not used to making. Obviously, over time you can learn to make those sounds. For example, when I first started learning Arabic, some of those sounds are quite hard to get used to. I don't remember ever being unable to pronounce something, but it's difficult to work it into regular speech kind of thing. But those sounds are, they're just something that aren't really in, particularly an English speaker, but in most Indo-European languages, actually all that I know of, those sounds just aren't really in our phonetic inventory. It's just not something that we make very often, or a sound that we make very often, so it's kind of difficult. Similarly, I think something that I struggled with was, for example, French nasals are a bit hard, because they don't always correspond in your head. Again, at first they were difficult. They're not something I struggle with anymore. When I first started with German, the very first time, sort of a few years ago, I struggled with producing a German R. Actually, at all. I had the French R stuck in my head so much of a ch, and then I had the Arabic rein, that the idea of trying to figure out where this German one was, of like rede, or like rede, or drei, not drei, or something, that it was very difficult at first. Now I know where it is, but I'm at that point where trying to make it work in the words and still have speed in pronouncing them and making it sound natural is difficult. I can pronounce it in isolation or pronounce a word, but then making it work while speaking German is difficult. There are some sounds that are just very, very difficult. Georgian, for example, has a sound that is like the kind of like the Arabic Q, a ka, but it's an ejective, and I still can't figure out, like, it's a ka, and I think a couple of those I might have hit it right, but I'm not sure. So I think obviously sounds like that are a bit, adjectives are a very large struggle. I have a post about them, not a video though, and I'll link that post somewhere. I've gotten a bit better with ejectives, but now I also struggle with separating ejectives sometimes from voiceless, normal voiceless stops, like unaspirated voiceless stops. When I was first in Armenia, during my first week, one of the waitresses at a restaurant was trying to teach me the word for like a slice of pizza, and she's telling me it's gdor. And now, granted, I think her dialect, because I swear she would say gdor or gdor, where it's an ejective K and not a regular K, and there are, although there's debate over this, there are certain dialects of Armenia that contain that phoneme. But then also I realized that what I originally recognized sometimes as adjectives in Armenian actually weren't. They were just people speaking maybe a bit forcefully or, you know, loudly, and they're pronouncing these unaspirated voiceless stops like and then like the affricate series of like and things like that, which sometimes I think I'm still pronouncing them as adjectives, but nobody has, I mean, in Armenian they view that more as like a dialect. It's a similar sound. It's not phonemic in any ways, and they're not going to tell you this is blatantly wrong. So there's like ejectives are hard, and even before I sort of started understanding ejectives, before going to Armenia, teaching my ear to distinguish between the three-way stop series in classical Armenian and in modern Eastern Armenian was difficult because I've never spoken a language where there was a distinction between voiceless, unaspirated, voiceless, aspirated, and then voiced. Which is just, it makes it difficult. So it's not just there's a K and a G, and sometimes K is aspirated and sometimes it's not. Like in English, there's a G, a K, and a G. And those are three separate sounds that you have to pronounce differently in different places, and it can change meaning, and it's again, it's not that they're impossible sounds, it's the idea of teaching your ear to recognize the differences and realize that those differences make a difference in meaning. And then also producing the differences. But I can't think of any great, like, impossible sounds. I personally, I can't do a lot of the clicks found in, like, I guess Niger, Congo, or Sub-Saharan, like, sort of Sub-Saharan African languages. I just haven't been able to teach my body to do them. I also, for some reason, can't nasalize an owl. So, like, the Portuguese word no. The one time I did it right, a Brazilian friend of mine put a chip in my mouth and made me say it. And she said that's how they teach foreigners in Brazil. I don't know. But again, I think those are things that come with practice. I think honestly, I think a lot of pronunciation struggles that people have are less the inability to pronounce a word, but the struggle and the difficulty of making that sound feel natural in your mouth and making it part of your regular, sort of your regular sound inventory, and then also part of regular speech. And other things can mess with that, like in a session, it's written with Cyrillic, but when you see the Cyrillic S, which looks like a C in English, and it's pronounced like an English S, in a session it's pronounced like a SH, so sh, and things like that. Whereas if I'm reading Turkmen, an S, or in Cyrillic Turkmen, the S, the C, is pronounced like a Th. It's lisped. So I think little things like that. But I'd say probably, if I had to pick like the hardest sound that I've ever had to make, would be the Georgian sound. The q, I think is what it is. It's a k, like the Arabic cough. It's a k, but then it's adjective. I want to say it's q. That, and one of the weirdest sounds that I don't think is weird, but it's just not something I expected, and they didn't teach me how to say it, is the Tajik pronunciation of ka. Because in Arabic, a cough is a cough, and when we get into Persian and we see like Arabic loanwords with a cough, it's more like a gha. And then I feel like in Dari, I for the most part still pronounce it as a cough, but when I speak Tajik, and sometimes Dari still, it's like it would be, I guess in IPA, it looks like the capital G in IPA. So it's a, no, sorry, that's the wrong thing. It's, like I'm trying to think of it, like the word kand would be kand, and then like Farsi, like in Iranian Persian, would be a khand or something like that. And then in Tajik, I would say like qand, where it's qand. I don't know what that is. I feel like that's the G in IPA. It's slightly different, and you can hear it, and I don't. And it wasn't anything that a professor was like, this sounds like this. You're not doing it quite right by doing the normal Arabic cue. It's just something I heard them doing, and I started pronouncing it the same way, and then I realized this isn't the same sound as the Arabic cough. Because the Arabic cough is a cough, and this is like qand, or qashang. Not qashang, but qashang. I guess it's voiced. It's like the cue, but it's voiced. Qashang. I'm not sure. But yeah, but definitely the hardest one I think I've ever had to do is the Georgian one. My parents were downstairs watching TV. Yes. But I think for the most part, personally, my struggle with pronunciation is generally making new sounds part of a regular sound inventory, and then just the struggle in switching. When you have to rotate through languages fairly quickly, I find that the previous language sort of affects the present one that I'm speaking, which is frustrating at times. But again, not the end of the world. I feel like that's a normal thing that people go through, because you sort of have to readjust your palate to the new language. So, you know, you need a few minutes. But, yeah. That's just my take on working through pronunciation struggles. And I think that's the advice I give to most people, is that I think everyone is capable, short of a speech impediment, everyone is capable of pronouncing all sorts of sounds. You can learn to say a cough, you can learn to say a ka, you can learn to say all these other sounds. The difficulty is then teaching yourself to say them consistently correct and use them fluently in speech and regularly. And I think that's the bigger struggle with pronunciation, at least in my case, and I think just in general, because again, the human body can make just about, you know, every sound unless you have a physical reason that you cannot. It's about teaching yourself not only how to do it, but then being able to produce it properly at the right time and with speed and fluency, and making it part of your regular inventory that you hear and can reproduce. But that's something that comes with practice and time. So, yeah. So that's all I really have for this week. Next week we'll be back auf Deutsch, and actually by the week after that I will be in Los Angeles recording. So, bye.